Hello guys, welcome back. It's Logical as always. In today's video we're going to be doing the autopsy or the post-mortem to the death battle episode of the Chosen Undead versus the Dragonborn. And before we continue with that there, what I have to say is thank you to everybody that commented on my previous video, because that was the most interactions I've had in one of my long form content videos in a very long time, if ever, so it is. And then also congratulations to the Death Battle team for actually putting together a decent video. I must say I thoroughly enjoyed the fight. Wasn't too impressed about the outcome, but I was impressed about the fight. And the level of research, even though the problem with the research whenever it came to Dark Souls was the lack of context. I will explain that more later on, because whenever it comes to Dark Souls, context is key. But just to speed things along here, right? So what I have done is I have gotten up the Death Battle video, and if you skip to 21:30 on that video, you will get the results. So for the Chosen Undead, he got greater survivability, resurrects upon death, but will eventually go hollow. Eventually being the key word there. He was too slow and weak to win. And a more limited arsenal again. Alright. For the last Dragonborn, they said he's far more powerful. Again, I'm going to go with much faster. Regenerating mana. Okay, that's fair. Greater variety. Again, can only die once, which is fair, right? But then on top of that, there, if you want to add an extra level to that, there, he also has the Thum, right? Okay, that's of everything that is said there. I do have my arguments, right? Now, the first argument that we are actually going to dig into is quite simply, well, we'll have it this here, right? We'll go with the most obvious ones, right? Obviously, the Dragonborn doesn't have immortality, whereas the Chosen Undead does, but will eventually go hollow. Eventually being the key word there, because he would have to give up to go hollow. He would have to lose his sense of purpose to go hollow. And quite frankly, because it's the Chosen Undead, and if you look at what he fights from start to finish, tenacity's an understatement. I'm nearly sure that the Chosen Undead's going to keep going, regardless of how fucking difficult the opponent is. I'm sorry, that's just a clean fact. Chosen Undead managed to make it from the Asylum to the Killing, and still managed to defeat Gwyn, as well as Manus as well in between that. I'm sorry, but no, Chosen Undead ain't giving up. Chosen Undead isn't losing his will to fight. Let's bring that up first, right? But obviously that would just make the fight basically last forever. So let's continue this argument, right? So, sorry. They give the Chosen Undead greater survivability. Now, that there's a fucking understatement, because I'm pretty sure that the last Dragonborn didn't have a sun detonate inside their chest. And if anybody gets that reference, kudos, because you'll know exactly what I mean, right? But let's get into the real sort of where context really is key. We'll start off with the speed stats, so we'll start off with that, right? So in terms of speed, yes, I understand the Dragonborn can dodge at 20% faster than the speed of light, whereas Oriel's bow can fire arrows at 250 times the speed of light, right? That's fine. That I have no arguments with. Where I have the argument with is the fact that they directly compare that bow firing that arrow to his physical speed. Bullshit counter. Let me explain why. Because if you give the Dragonborn another bow, that exact same result is not going to happen. Make sense? Thank you. Because quite frankly, this is where the context comes in. I'm sorry, but if you hand the Dragonborn the likes of a Daedric bow, it is not going to be able to do the same as Oriel's bow, right? But they're using Oriel's bow as for some unknown reason as a way to say that the Dragonborn's faster, whenever that's just not true. And I've already given this speed argument a bullshit counter. So that's one bullshit counter we're on so far, right? Now, let's talk about strength, shall we? For strength, the last Dragonborn is compared to Alduin and Miraak, right? Miraak, who could rip apart an island, which, okay, and Alduin, who can devour two universes. Well, apparently universes upon universes, apparently he can devour if he was ever at full strength, which he was not in Skyrim. So, kind of a flawed comparison there. Does that make sense? Again, remember that word context? Bingo! Let's get to it, right? Now, adding more context to it, so the Dragonborn is scaled to them, right? Now, let's take a look at the Chosen Undead, right? Let's deal with Gwyn first, because this argument's going to get very detailed very fucking quickly. Gwyn, whenever he linked the flame, he used his own soul as kindling for the flame, because the flame will only accept a powerful soul, right? But in doing so, Gwyn broke the rules of the universe. He didn't just create an extra timeline. He didn't just create anything. He created a multiverse, right? That's what Gwyn done. Gwyn created a multiverse, be it intentionally or not. That is exactly what he did. He created a temporal fracture that spread infinitely in the world of Dark Souls. Because by Dark Souls 3, you're still dealing with his shit, which is hundreds of thousands of millions of years probably in the future. Right? Now take that into context over multiple timelines as well as multiple universes, because each individual has its own universe. So, let that one sink in, Gotta love it. Different universes has different outcomes with different things happening all at once. Yeah, so that's what Gwyn done, right? So remember that word context? Let's take another one into account. Let's take a look at good old Gravelord Nito, who was simultaneously the god of death, but also managed to infect the multiverse with the Gravelord plague. So yeah, in terms of extent of power, Gravelord Nito is kind of like really up there, So not only did Gwyn create a multiverse, Nito was also able to infect said multiverse. So that puts both of them at multiversal power, guys, right? So then, at the same time, where they also bring their argument is the entire idea of, well, they lowballed. This is actually a new argument. They lowballed the power of the first flame, right? So, and this is what I mean by lowballed, because I'm sorry, but no Fusruda is going to put out the first flame. It's not happening. Not ever is that ever going to happen. No chance. I disagree. That's a bullshit counter by itself. Because the first flame, even in its weakest state, was still able to keep the fabric of reality that Gwyn broke together. Maybe not cohesive, but together. That being an issue, you know what I mean? So again, they heavily lowballed the first flame. Like, it's not even heavily, they extremely lowballed the first flame's power output. So they did. Now, to find the flip side of that argument, right? Whereas the Dragonborn had Alduin and Mirak, not only does the Chosen Undead have Gwyn to work with, but he also has Manus. See, here's the fun thing. See, as the fire fades, the darkness grows. And then, like I said, as the fire wanes and fades, the darkness grows. Right? So that means that even if the Dragonborn was able to put out the first flame, that means he's just going to have one very pissed off Chosen Undead riddled with humanity coming after him. Now, bearing in mind, that might get rid of the undead curse. It might remove it because the fire would have completely faded and the undead curse would have faded away. But I'm sorry, but you're going to have a heavily hulked out fucking Chosen Undead to deal with at that stage. Just look at what happened to Manus whenever his humanity ran wild. That's all I have to say. So, whereas the Dragonborn's being compared to two things, the Chosen Undead's pulling from two things. Makes sense? Also have to keep in mind that the Chosen Undead did defeat these two people. You know? I'm sorry, but I'm starting to think multiversal feats kind of defeats a dragon that only eats two universes as well as Mirak as who can destroy an island. You know what I mean? It's just the logic is flawed. So it is. The logic is flawed in this one. And then whenever it comes to the variety of weapons, I understand, yes, in terms of sheer variety, the Dragonborn wins. In terms of useful variety, the Dragonborn loses. Simply for the factor of Wabbajack gets countered by Great Magic Barrier. Dawnbreaker just doesn't work in fucking general, to be honest. So it doesn't. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work because he is human until he dies and then he becomes hollow, and then it might have some effect. I say some, but it's just not going to have a decent enough effect to actually put him down forever. Make sense? Right? But then take a look, right? Yes, he has Mehrunes Razor, but that involves him hitting the Chosen Undead. Yes, the Mehrunes Razor has effectively a one-hit kill. Hitting him's the problem. He reacts 20% faster than the speed of light. I'm sorry, but he's going to see you swinging a mile away because we already covered the speed argument and I give it a bullshit counter. Right? Sorry, not happening. What else? Wabbajack. Oh, I covered it. Soon. Well, no harm, but Dragon Rend ain't going to do shit on him. I'm sorry, Dragon Rend just simply ain't going to do shit. Mehrunes Razor, funnily enough, ain't going to do... Actually, none of the weapons he has is going to do shit. None of the Thumes is going to do anything to him either, simply just due to the fact that he can revive. Again, are you seeing the bullshit counters rolling in here? So yes, ineffective arsenal from the last Dragonborn's perspective, from the way that I'm looking at it at least, because as far as I'm aware, that there's not a single weapon in this game that is going to put him down, at least for good. You know what I mean? Whereas the Chosen Undead has weapons that weren't showcased, funnily enough, because first of all, you've got, well, the curved greatsword of Gravelord Nito, the Gravelord greatsword that literally has poison or a death toxic applied to it. So one nick from that sword, Dragonborn's dead. Life on Scythe, Dragonborn's dead. Quillag's Fury Sword, a sword that literally burns the souls of anything it comes into contact with. Ah, well, Dragonborn's dead again. What else have we got? Do you really want to go the Gold Tracer for attack speed? Well, that's going to be painful. As I says, there is a counterpart to Mehrunes Razor in the Dark Silver Tracer. Do you see where the arguments are coming in? I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to go with a bullshit counter. I'm sorry. But the more and more, as said, the key word to this is context. In terms of context, I cannot justify the Dragonborn winning this fight. So I have to apologize to all of the Skyrim fanboys. But the Dragonborn does not win this fight. Unfortunately, everything the Chosen Undead did was lowballed. And unfortunately, in that case, that means that there was a severe bias in place for this fight. So quite frankly, to Death Battle, I'm disappointed that you allowed such biases to exist. Because realistically, the bias shouldn't exist. It should be clean and simple. So it should. So my argument at this stage is over. If anybody wants to challenge me on that, however, please feel free to comment. I will more than likely love to hear what you have to say, because I love any debate that comes my way. I do indeed have a Discord, so if you have a Discord, we can actually have this conversation in person if you want, and I will challenge your ideas and thoughts to this. So I will challenge it and see how far we get. I have absolutely no issues in this. I will record it and put it up on YouTube if you do indeed want to. Other than that, we can have it in private and we can talk about it. No issues by mine. No issues. I'm more than happy enough to do this. So I am. In saying all of that there, regardless, it was a good episode. I'm not going to argue with that. Miffed at the end because it was a cop-out. It really was a cop-out. Oh, shit. Fuck, I forgot an argument, so I did, and that was simply, I forgot two things. First of all, I called it with vow of silence. Second of all, as somebody pointed out in the comments, there was no reason why the Chosen Undead could not just grab him at the end with the Dark Hand and rip out his soul. That's a different argument to be said, but I've already dished out my bullshit counters, so I have, so that's all I have to say about that. But no, all in all, I disagree. All in all, if it if there wasn't bias, if there wasn't so many biases in place and the lack of context, I would have happily admitted this. I would have happily had. I would have happily admitted defeat. But unfortunately, due to the lack of context and their mouth and how they view things, too many biases were in place. So I have to make my point clear. If you break it down point by point, again, come at me in the comments. I will more than happily have a go with it. Be my guest. I'm more than happy to have some fun. Puts my day in more than you think. So, guys, yeah, you've heard everything I've had to say. Build your own opinion at this point. But on that end, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. I guess because this is a hill I will die on, guys. And guys, I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.